So, Glenn,
Okay.
just tell us a little bit about yourself. You train Nelson Cruz, Delinvetance. You've worked with Robinson Canal and a host of other Major League Baseball players.
Correct. I've been training for about 26 years. I'm showing my age and whatnot,
Uh-oh.
even though I don't look it. But I've been doing it for about 26 years. Over the years, I've fine-tuned my style to dealing with pro athletes because their bodies are just different. Their bodies react different to training. So what I found that in the beginning, I trained them according to what they wanted to look like, as opposed to how their body needs to function.
Mm-hmm.
So over the years, I had to kind of change how I was training because aesthetics actually means nothing to him. You can have the greatest looking athlete, but if he can't move to hit a ball or to throw a pitch, it means absolutely nothing. So I was doing more harm than good. So over the years, I changed my style, whether I'm dealing with a pitcher, an infielder, outfielder, and I train sport specific to their movements and how they move in the field.
Now,
Glenn,
how important is that?
Yeah, I love that you said pitcher, infielder, outfielder, because I think a lot of people would just separate hitters and pitchers. How
No.
different is the body motion and the different stuff that you work on between outfielders and infielders?
Well, outfielders, one, depends if you play in center field, you have to be able to accelerate a sprint. So you're sprinting over a longer distance. So the infielder is basically the quarterback of the outfield. Center fielder is basically the quarterback of the outfield. He covers more range normally than most people. So his sprints have to be able to control or to cover more range. So the way I train him is a little bit different. Same thing with infielders and outfielders. First baseman and third baseman, their movements are similar because of the hot corners. So theirs is pretty similar as far as training. Same thing with shortstop and second base. Then you go to catcher. Catchers, a lot of their movements is dictated from a squatting position. So you train everything from getting up from a squatting position to being able to pop up throw, whether it's the first or the second. You want them to be able to do that with as little ease as possible.
We're just looking at a video of Nelson Cruz training, and you had him pulling, I don't know what, and now doing push-ups on weights. What type of training does Nelson go into? How is his training different from, let's say, Robinson Canó?
Well, Nelson Cruz when we started with him, he was 35 years old. So he was used to training to get bigger. So I told him getting bigger for him is not going to help him. You need to be more functional. So we combined his training from some weights to a lot of functional movement, which was allowing him to basically, at the age of 35, average 35 plus home runs for the next 5 years that we trained him. So he probably has the most home runs in baseball the last 5 years after the age of 35.
After you started working with him.
Yeah.
Right. So we switched his training. Well, his body type is one, he's a big guy. But if you make a big guy bigger, he loses his ability to move. When he loses his ability to move, he loses his flexibility, he opens the door up for more injuries. So we wanted to make sure that he stayed healthy. He's played more games after the age of 35 than he's done in his whole career, and he's actually hit more home runs, and he had a better average. So I had to change my style to fit him because he's a DH, so he wasn't really in the outfield. So I didn't really have to worry about him being able to sprint and move. I just needed him to be able to move functionally and to remove a lot of holes that are in his swing. So the training style was a lot of core-centric movements so that he could hit the outside pitch, he could hit the inside pitch, whether it's high, low, it didn't matter where you threw it, he was able to hit it.
So we were talking about the Yankees, basically, and
Right.
teams and injuries that can be avoided. Advice to the Yankees right now.
My advice to the Yankees would be don't just address the result of the injury, you have to address the cause of the injury.
Yep.
So
I had a
obviously-
guy.
So obviously there's something off in their training.
I'm not going to sit there and say something's off with their training, but if I was training him, it would be different. So my thing is like, I had a guy come in, he was having shoulder discomfort. And I explained to him that his shoulder discomfort was coming from his landed ankle.
Okay.
And he was like, well, what does my ankle have to do with my shoulder? And then I had to explain to him, if you go through your stride, your landing ankle hits the ground, your landing ankle is unstable. You now can't throw the ball where you want to. So what does the brain say? I'm going to dial it down. But the heart says, I'm going to dial it up. So the heart forces the shoulder to throw the ball harder. So now you're putting more torque on your shoulder. So now you just threw off your own mechanics trying to address a stability issue that if you would address the ankle, it would have addressed the arm. So the best example I can give is like, I'm gonna give you a piece of wood and a saw. I'm gonna give you a straight line to saw. The only problem is I'm gonna make one leg on the table shorter.
Okay.
So now you're gonna try and saw a straight line. No matter how hard you try, you won't be able to saw a straight line because the table constantly moves. Now going back to the ankle, or in the case of Chapman, who I know, not real close to him, but I was watching film on him, his landing knee is unstable. So he struggles to find the strike zone. So he dials down his fastball. So he went from throwing 103, 104 to 95 to 100. Easier to hit than 103, 104.
Huge difference.
But it was a simple issue as looking at his ankle and his knee, saying his knee moves every time it plants his foot.
Mm-hmm.
So it throws his arm off, so he can't find the strike zone. So my ability to see those things are different than the trainers that are seeing these athletes on a daily basis, because I don't look at the result, I look at the cause.
Now we're going to have to call Brian Cashman and let him know that there's a trainer out here who knows what's up.
I mean, like I said, I'm not in the business of stepping on other trainers' toes.
Yeah.
But at some
they
point,
could learn.
You have to evolve.
Mm-hmm.
Even myself, I had to evolve. I had to start looking at things differently. So I stopped looking at the result and start looking at the cause. So if someone's having issues with their hamstrings, that comes from imbalance in the quads. If your quads are too big, your hamstrings are too small, there's no balance. So your hamstrings can't stop the torque that your quads generate. So you will have hamstring issues, i.e., Jesus, play for the Mets. And Jesus Christ. Play for the Mets. He's not playing this year. Reyes, thank you.
Oh.
Thank you. Jose Reyes. He had hamstring issues his whole career because his legs were improperly imbalanced. And he's a speed guy.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so if you're a speed guy, you have problems with your hamstrings, you have now a problem because you just paid this guy all his money based on speed and he can't run like he's supposed to because he's scared of pulling his hamstring.
Exactly.
And when we went down to the technical issue, we were talking about, I asked, what was the hardest injury in season to come back from? And you were talking about hamstrings there too. What makes a hamstring so critical for every part, really any position player, whether it be pitcher, outfielder, infielder? What makes a hamstring so critical, and why are they so hard to come back from?
Because the hamstring is connected to the back. So if you don't address the hamstring, eventually, the body's an amazing tool. The body will always try to compensate. Mm-hmm. So it will compensate up the kinetic chain. I am older than both of you, so there was this song as a kid, ankle bone connected to the knee bone connected to the hip bone, and so on and so forth. And that holds true in training as far as what muscles are connected to what. So if you have a guy that has a hamstring issue, he can't really run like he's supposed to. So what is he going to try and do? I'm going to try and hit the ball as far as I can. So now I'm over swinging. If my core is not stable enough to handle that over swinging, now I'm risking a back issue. So you have to look at the injury, the cause of the injury, and what can they injure compensating for that injury? So that's what my training philosophy is. I look at the totality of the issue and say, okay, what can go wrong if not addressed? What caused it? How do I address the cause as opposed to addressing the injury itself? Because if I address the cause, the injury goes away. If I address the injury, it feels better, but it's not going away because I never addressed the cause. So a lot of teams will say, go ahead.
No, finish your thought.
A lot of teams, the first thing they're going to say is, well, I'm going to give a guy rest and not let him throw. Giving him rest of throwing, I agree with. But losing the disconnect in the kinetic chain, I have a problem with. So you just went from, I was just throwing every day, to now I'm not going to throw for the next 4 weeks to give my arm a rest. You just set your whole body back. You could have did other things to keep the communication in the kinetic chain going, so when they go to start throwing, they'll be fine. But now you just turned a 4-week injury into a 60-week injury because now you have to get your conditioning back. Yep. Where you could have kept your conditioning the whole time. Even if it's a knee injury, they have different treadmills that you can use to offset the pressure on the knee. But there's also things that you can do upper body-wise that would keep that kinetic chain constantly communicating.
Wow, this is so interesting, especially with talking about the body and learning what parts of the body are connected with what. Like, you wouldn't think the back is connected to the ankle or to the shoulder. And I see you do a lot of balance training. How important is that?
Balance training is like, we went back to the whole sawing incident. I'm having you saw a straight line on an imbalanced table. So if I have instability in my ankles and I go to swing, my swing's now off because I'm not balanced. The more balanced I am, the more level I am to create my swing. The problem with analytics is, okay, they always make a big deal out of exit velocity.
Yeah.
So if I hit a 120 mile an hour ball into the ground, you know what that is? A faster double play if there's a man on first. It's just easier for me to turn the double play because I just hit it that fast and it got to either the second baseman or the shortstop. I can turn the double play faster. So you got guys trying to hit home runs, which I'm not don't get me wrong, I'm a fan of home runs. But what happened to the 300 hitter?
Right.
You're basically making 300 hitters obsolete. Yep. You know, one of my favorite players besides Derek Jeter was Tony Gwynn. I think I don't think he struck out over 70 times in a season, ever. Mm-hmm. You know, so, you know, I think, and this is my opinion, they're using analytics to not pay guys what they're really worth. Because they'll take these numbers and say, according to these numbers, you're not performing. But if I just hit 40 home runs, 40 home runs is 40 home runs. They said, but your exit velocity wasn't that good. I was like, I don't care how, if I hit the ball 90 miles an hour that goes over the fence, it's still a home run.
Right.
You know, but they take these numbers and they manipulate them to use them to pay who they want to pay and not pay who they don't want to pay.
Glenn, is there one injury that when you see, if you're watching whatever evening sports show you watch, that you hear about, is there one injury that just infuriates you to hear it happening to a professional athlete because in your mind it's something that no professional athlete should deal with and it's completely preventable?
We would go back to hamstrings. Hamstrings are a lot of soft tissue injuries are really, really avoidable if you do the proper training. Mm-hmm. If you make sure a player's body is balanced and they have no flaws in their kinetic chain, a lot of soft tissue injuries are really avoidable. I can't really do anything about a guy who gets hit in the wrist or hit in the hand by a pitch. Right. I can't do nothing about a guy who slips down the stairs because it's raining. Can't really do nothing about that. I can't do nothing about collisions. But soft tissue injuries really, really bother me because if your body is properly trained and is functioning like it should be as a total unit, a lot of those injuries are avoidable.
Now, explain soft tissue injuries to those who don't know what that means.
Soft tissue injuries are like hamstrings, obliques, pull a calf muscle, pull a lower back muscle, any muscle or I don't want to say tendon, but any muscle that you pull or tweak because of your body not being trained right. Like a guy hurts his back swinging. You swing for a living. How do you hurt your back swinging? Your body's not protecting itself. So your core muscles are like a girdle. Mm-hmm. Your girdle protects your spine. It activates when you move. Left shows down. Right generates the power. Left side slows it down, brings it back before you twist yourself into the ground. Proper core training, proper core technique, you should never have an issue. Guys, overswing. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, we've seen a lot of Tommy John surgeries in the past few years. What do you think is that due to?
A lot of times when you have a guy that winds up with a shoulder or an elbow issue, you miss the signs. Mm-hmm. So there's something that leads up to that before it gets to the point where he needs Tommy John. Whether it's unstable knee, unstable ankle, core strength not proper enough so that he can follow through. Because your arm is literally a slingshot. It doesn't generate, your power is generated from the core down. So that's where your power is generated from. Your arm is just a slingshot. But when you try to throw with your arm, I have guys that have no core, no legs. I said, you might as well sit on the mound in the chair and try and throw from sitting in the chair because all the torque is now going to your arm. So the elbow takes it, the shoulder takes it. And you like, most guys are like, I don't mind taking Tommy John because they feel like they're stronger after Tommy John. But if you can avoid it, why not avoid it if you can? Yeah. Let your body, train your body to the point where it is functioning like, almost like a fine orchestra. Every part doing this part, every part hands off that signal to the next part and let that body work like a fine orchestra. When you do that, you will see a lot less injuries. You'll see a lot less major injuries. And when you want to give a guy rest, you give him rest because you feel like he's tired, not that analytics tells you he should rest.
Glenn, is there one universal exercise that you think is absolutely critical for athletes to be doing during the season to sustain during the 162-game grind?
I have in-season programs. I have out-season programs. So it all depends on the individual. My training is based on individual basis. Your body type, your position, how you move, how you react to the movements that I designed for you. So I can't say that there's a universal exercise that they should be doing because it changes from individual to individual. Okay. So if I was working for the Yankees, each position player would have their specific movements, and then you'll have, because like Aaron Judge is a big guy.
Yeah, he is.
So his kinetic chain is longer. So you have to make sure that you facilitate your training to compensate his kinetic chain to keep that communication. Same thing with Dylan Betances. When you have big, tall guys, the communication and the kinetic chain is very important because it's so much room to have a disconnect. So you have to make sure that your training facilitates that height and that size. So like Stanton pulling his bicep on a swing, for me is I'm like boggles my mind. Because if his core was where it was supposed to be, it would have took that torque away from the bicep and it would have kept it here, and he wouldn't have to worry about that strain to the bicep. Mm-hmm. But I'm just on the outside looking in. Yeah. So, I see it, I point it out to my staff here, and I explain to them, this is why we do this is why we do that, to avoid this injury, to avoid that injury. These are the reasons why we do certain things.
But those are important things to know, to point out. Hopefully we have some major league executives and trainers watching because at the end of the day, we don't want guys to get hurt. It hurts baseball. Right. So if these guys can prevent the injuries, that's what you want.
People buy tickets to see the players on the field.
That is 100% correct. And I say the same thing when it goes to the executives. Protect your investment.
Yeah.
If you just gave, look at the Mets. They have Cespedes sitting on the bench That's $25 million sitting on your bench.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I have an assessment called CASPA, which is the Comprehensive Athletic Sports Performance Assessment, where I can actually have a 81% injury probability prediction.
Wow.
If not addressed. So we go through our physical assessment, we go through your blood work, we go through everything. With that information, with videos on how you move, I can pretty much predict what you're going to hurt if it's not addressed. I can't give you a time frame, but I can let you know it'll happen this season. So it's one of those things where I look at the body in its totality, see where the flaws are in the movement, and address them. Because if I'm a GM and I'm giving a guy $200 million, or in the case of Mike Trout, who just got the largest contract in baseball, and now he hurt his groin. So you just paid him all this money, and now he's on the bench. So I always tell guys, your best ability is availability.
Amen.
You can be the best player anywhere, but if you're on the bench, you might as well be me. Because I can't hit a ball to save my life, you know. But if you hit a ball for a living, you throw a ball for a living, your best ability is available. If you're hurt, you are useless to your team no matter how much they're paying. So if I'm a GM and I just gave a guy $300-something million and 2 weeks later he's hurt, if I was a financial guy, I would be fired. If I just invested $200 million in you and you lost $25 million of that right away,
yeah,
I would fire my financial guy.
Yeah.
So you got guys that sign. Go ahead.
No, say this. Complete your thought.
Well, there's a lot of as you know, Jennifer, I'm down in the Dominican Republic probably 3.5 to 6 weeks out of the year, and I deal with a lot of young guys that got $2 million contracts, $4 million contracts. I guess for the teams, it's not a lot of money, but for them players, it's a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
But if the team that just gave you this money has no idea what you're doing down there, you're not watching your investment. I know I call my financial guy at least once a week just to check in and say, hey, I don't have millions of dollars, but the money that I have, I check in on to have him protect. But if you give a guy a $5 million contract and he's down in the DR and you don't know what he's doing, then he comes into spring training hurt. Now you're mad at him, but you should be mad at yourself because you never checked in.
Yeah.
You didn't see what he was doing. So my guys, I give them off-season programs. When I'm not around, this is what you do. I check in. I make sure you're following our protocol. I'm not a team. I'm responsible for you. But you're also responsible for my reputation. So I want to make sure you're doing the right thing. You're staying healthy. You're going out there. You're producing. You're putting up numbers. Your fans are happy. I'm a fan of the Yankees. Yankees, right now, they're the walking wounded. And if they don't start addressing a lot of the things that they need to address, Tampa Bay will run away with this division. Because I don't think they have the team mentally to play catch up. Because stress of you're guaranteed to win or you should win ain't for everybody. That's one of the things about playing in New York that's difficult. That pressure. Mm-hmm. New York fans, all we want to do is win. You don't care about nothing. You say, oh, you got problems at home? Not my problem. What you doing on the field? We don't care. We need you to perform. We need you to win. They have a lot of things that they need to address. And you can go throughout Major League Baseball. There's a lot of things that GMs should address, owners should address, presidents should address, because you have that disconnect from the top to the bottom. I mean, get me wrong, the owners are billionaires. Do they care? Maybe. Some do, some don't. Because most of the time, the teams are just hobbies for them. So maybe they don't care. But a GM should care because your job's on the line. So if you just made these investments, your investments fall through, you're going to be fired. Same thing with the president. You hire the GM to do a job. He's not doing his job. You're going to fire that GM unless the team owner fires the president first.
Yep.
So it's a line, just like the body's kinetic chain. There's a kinetic chain in order in sports where it's the training staff, the analytics department, the hitting coaches, the pitching coaches. They should all be on the same page. They should all constantly communicate. They should all know what's going on with each department. How can I help your guy hit better? How can I help your guy pitch better? And once 100%. You start getting that, you'll see a lot of teams, one, stay healthy, two, perform better. You know, you have a lot of teams like the Cubs were at one point were really buying into the philosophy of taking care of the bodies and things like that on a whole totality, and everybody communicating on the same page. You know, but you got a young GM, or he was young at the time anyway. You know, but he understood I have to do things differently to be successful. He broke the Red Sox curse. He broke the Cubs curse.
It speaks. Numbers talk. Money talks, and numbers talk. So exactly. In that case, that's a really good example of someone taking the importance of health and their bodies into the game.
Yeah.
Right.
Now with Tommy John, I know you've had clients, pitchers who have come back from not one, but two or maybe even three Tommy John surgeries, and after training with you, they've gone to play maybe not Major League Baseball, but playing overseas or playing in Mexico, correct?
Correct.
How do you bring those guys back?
Well, right now, being that it's a power pitcher's game, I have a guy named Jose Reyes. Was pitching in Mexico. He actually on a pitch in the independent league. He was in Milwaukee's minor league system. He doesn't throw 95 to 98. He throws 91, but he can pitch.
Yeah.
You understand? So just like you lose the art of pitching for power, you know, but pitching is still an art form. You want to get out there, you want to be able to set a guy up to swing at something that he knows he shouldn't be swinging at. You want to be able to get a double play when you can get it, manufacture a run when you can. Like if I was a hitter, you put the shift on me, I will bunt every single day, and I'll probably bat 500 off of just bunts because you're giving me a hit.
Yep.
And I'll take the hit all day long. But I don't understand where the disconnect happened to, you know, I understand it's more exciting, but at the end of the day, you want to win games. You want to win championships. So if I go out there and I win a game 5-4, I didn't hit home run, but I just kind of kept that merry-go-round going. Then I put my bullpen in and they do their job. I win a game. The fans are not going to care with the wins. The ones that are sitting in the stadium, they may want to see more home runs, because they want to catch balls and things like that. But at the end of the day, all they care about is winning. They want to win. So I don't care
all
how
I do is win.
Basically.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't care how you get my runs, get them.
You just need one more than the other guy. That's it. Just one.
I've watched games. I don't even know the numbers. I normally would have to be more prepared. How many guys they've left on base this year? Mind-boggling. But that's the same way they finished last year. They're not going to beat the Astros that way. The Astros can hit home runs, but they like to keep that merry-go-round going. That's how Boston beat them. Keep the merry-go-round running. You sitting there, you're waiting for a 3-run homer. 9 times out of 10, you're not going to get it, because you have like great pitchers. They're not going to give up home runs. If they throw a mistake, they're going to hit that mistake. But great pitchers really don't make mistakes. Verlander's not really going to make that mistake. Bumgarner's not going to make that mistake. DeGrom's having a little rough patch right now. His last 2 outings are a little rough. But he'll find his groove. He'll get back into it. He's not going to make that mistake. So when you get into the playoffs, all you're going to see is the best of the best. You can't manufacture runs. How many times you see the Yankees last year? Man on first and second, no outs, don't score. Mm-hmm. That was their going theme last year. They get a man on first and second. I've seen a man on first and third, no outs, and still don't score. Boggles my mind. I go out thinking that, no, maybe we'll get one run. I come back, innings over. How? Because they're waiting for a home run.
Yeah.
But if you only need one more run than your opponent to win a game. So analytics has its place. I think it has its purpose, but I don't think analytics should dictate how the game is played. Because at the end of the day, it's a human element that analytics cannot quantify, and you cannot remove that human element from the game. Period.
Glenn, thank you so much for being on here with us and teaching us. I want to get into the gym now. Not really.
You know, mi casa, su casa. You're always welcome. You can bring your guy. He's now family. You're always welcome. Come on in anytime.
Yeah, we're going to take the whole La Vida baseball team out.
Bring the
to
squad.
You.
You're more than welcome to come in.
I'm in.
And,
we're going to take them out to Performance House and get it on and popping.
And I'll show you what functional training is all about.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Well, Glenn, thank you. And I love chatting with you about the importance of the strength being individually structured to what the individual does. It isn't just a blanket workout because you play baseball, but what you do is what you should be working out to excel at. So love that, Glenn. Thank you for your time today. Love chatting with you.
Thank you, guys. Have a great day. Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
We'll talk to you again soon.
Bye-bye.
You got it. See you later, guys.